The massive doors of the Galactic Council chamber towered 50 feet high. Polished to a mirror shine, Ambassador Jane Wilson felt like an insect as she approached them. Her heart hammered against her ribs, though she maintained a calm exterior. The fate of humanity rested on what happened in the next few hours. 2 hulking guards with blue crystalline skin and 4 arms each stood at attention. Their eyes swiveled to track her small human delegation. The lead guard spoke, his translator converting complex harmonic tones into English. "State your business." Earthling Jane squared her shoulders and spoke clearly. "Ambassador Jane Wilson of Earth, summoned by Council Directive 7729. The guards exchanged glances. One pressed his palm against a glowing panel. The enormous doors began to part, revealing the chamber beyond. Jane had seen images during briefings, but nothing prepared her for the reality. The council chamber stretched upward hundreds of feet in a perfect dome. The walls curved with thousands of viewing platforms, each occupied by representatives of different species. Some breathed different atmospheres contained in their personal environmental bubbles. Others floated in anti-gravity fields. Their appearances ranged from vaguely humanoid to utterly alien forms that defied human categorization. At the center stood the raised platform where the 7 high counselors presided, beings chosen from the most ancient and powerful civilizations in the galaxy. They watched impassively as the human delegation approached. Their faces, if they could be called faces, revealed nothing. "Ambassador Wilson, represent your case." The center counselor spoke. Its voice bypassed her ears and manifested directly in her mind. The humans accompanying Jane flinched at the sudden intrusion. Jane stepped forward. The platform beneath her feet illuminated, responding to her presence. A holographic display appeared, showing Earth rotating slowly. The chamber fell silent. 3,000 representatives from 1,000 worlds, all focusing their attention on her. The representative of a species most considered primitive, barely space-capable, hardly worthy of notice. Honorable counselors, distinguished representatives. Jane began, her voice steady, despite her fear. "I stand before you representing Earth, a world that has only recently joined the interstellar community. We understand that our application for observer status has caused concern among some members of this august body." A low murmur rippled through the chamber. "What the ambassador means," High Counselor Vex interrupted, his 4 eyes blinking in sequence, "is that Earth has violated Protocol 357 by approaching the Council directly, rather than through their designated sector representative. The Draxians have filed a formal complaint." Jane nodded respectfully. "We acknowledge the protocol breach, High Counselor. However, Earth had no choice. The Draxian Empire has systematically blocked all our attempts to communicate with the wider Council. For the past 3 standard years, this caused another wave of murmurs. The Draxian representative, a tall being with scaled skin that shifted colors with his emotions, stood from his platform, lies and slander. The Draxian hissed, "Earth is a primitive world barely able to achieve superluminal travel. They have nothing to offer the galactic community. Their resources are better managed under our guidance." Jane maintained her composure, though anger flashed in her eyes. She pressed a small device on her wrist and a new hologram appeared above the chamber floor. "This is a recording of our last 7 attempts to file petitions through Draxian channels," she stated. Each was acknowledged, received, and subsequently marked as reviewed and rejected, without explanation. The timestamps glowed clearly for all to see. The Draxian representative's scales flushed a deep red. The lead High Counselor leaned forward. "This is concerning Ambassador Wilson. What exactly does Earth seek from this council that the Draxians so vigorously oppose?" Jane took a deep breath. This was the moment everything hinged upon. "We seek recognition of Earth's sovereign territory, including our solar system and the 17 exoplanets we have terraformed and colonized. We seek observer status on this council, and we request an investigation into Draxian mining operations at the edge of our territory. Operations we believe violate your own conservation directives." The Draxian representative leapt to his feet. "Outrageous. These humans exaggerate their claims. The planets they mention were uninhabitable rocks before our terraforming technology made them viable." Jane smiled for the first time. Perhaps the Council would like to examine the terraforming signatures on those worlds. Our methods differ significantly from Draxian approaches. We use biological systems rather than mechanical transformation. The evidence is written in the soil composition, atmospheric makeup, and even the genetic markers of the introduced species. The High Counselors conferred silently for several moments. Then the central figure spoke again. "We will examine this evidence, Ambassador Wilson. The accusation is serious. The Draxian Empire has been a respected member of this council for 7 centuries. The Draxian representative smiled smugly, his scales settling into a confident blue pattern. However, continued, the High Counselor, protocol violations work both ways. If the Draxians have deliberately obstructed a developing world's rightful petition, that too violates our most sacred principles. The Draxian's smug expression vanished. Jane revealed her final card. We also bring a gift to the council, as is traditional for new petitioners. She gestured, and one of her aides stepped forward carrying a small transparent container. Inside was what appeared to be ordinary soil with several small green plants growing. The counselors leaned forward, peering at the unimpressive offering. This is a specialized terraforming micro-ecosystem, Jane explained. It can transform toxic heavy metal concentrations into harmless compounds while producing oxygen and viable soil. We developed it to clean up our own industrial waste sites, but we've adapted it to work on 90% of known habitable worlds. We offer this technology freely to the Council for distribution to worlds suffering from industrial contamination. The chamber erupted in excited conversation. Many worlds across the galaxy struggled with the legacy of industrial pollution. A biological solution that could be tailored to different environments would be invaluable. The lead counselor raised a hand for silence. Impressive, Ambassador. The Council accepts your petition for consideration. Earth will be granted provisional observer status pending our investigation of these matters. The Draxian objection is noted but overruled for now. Jane bowed respectfully. Thank you, counselors. Earth looks forward to working with the galactic community. As she turned to leave, she caught the eye of the Draxian representative. His scales had turned almost black with rage. She kept her expression neutral, but allowed herself a small smile, only when her back was turned. Outside the chamber, her team finally relaxed. That went better than expected, her chief science officer Lisa Patel whispered. Did you see the Draxians' face when you mentioned the terraforming signatures? They never expected we'd be able to prove it was our work. Jane nodded. We have 3 days before the investigation. Team arrives. We need to prepare our case. The Draxians won't give up easily. They've been mining rare elements from our claimed territories for years. They won't surrender that resource without a fight. Do you think they'll retaliate? Diplomatically asked Carlos Mendez, her security chief. Jane's expression grew serious. They might try something more direct than diplomacy. We should alert our defense grid. Keep the fleet on standby. The human delegation made its way back to their modest quarters in the diplomatic sector of the massive station that housed the Galactic Council. Jane stared out the viewport at the spectacular sight of the galactic core stars densely packed and brilliant against the void. She felt the weight of responsibility on her shoulders. Earth had made its first move in the complex game of interstellar politics. They had gained provisional status, but the real battle was just beginning. Later that night, as Jane reviewed data for the upcoming investigation, her communication device chimed. An encrypted message appeared on the screen. Ambassador Wilson, be advised, Draxian agents have been observed accessing restricted areas near your quarters. Exercise caution. The signature identified the sender as Talora, 3rd Adjutant. To the Felesian delegation, Jane frowned. The Felesians were known for their extensive intelligence networks. If they were warning her, then the threat was real. She immediately alerted her security team. Within an hour, they discovered 3 surveillance devices hidden in their quarters. Lisa was able to determine they were of Draxian manufacture. But with modifications to mask their energy signatures, they're watching us. Jane said, not surprising, but concerning. They seem desperate. The question is, what are they hiding? Carlos said as he deactivated the last device. The mining operations must be more extensive than we realized, or more illegal. Jane added. The Draxians claimed those planets were uninhabitable, but what if they weren't? What if there were indigenous life forms? Lisa looked up from her data pad. That's exactly what our probes found before they were destroyed. Simple organisms, but definitely life. The Council has strict regulations about mining on worlds with any indigenous biological development. Jane nodded grimly. That's why the Draxians blocked our petitions. They knew we'd report the violations and why they were so eager to claim we couldn't have terraformed those worlds. If the planets were barren, then there was nothing to protect. What's our next move? Carlos asked. Jane smiled. Now we gather evidence. We have provisional observer status, which gives us access to the Council archives. There might be records of prelimi. The Grand Assembly Hall of the Galactic Council pulsed with tension. Ambassador Diane Foster stood alone on the central platform, surrounded by tier upon tier of alien delegates. Her small human frame seemed insignificant against the backdrop of massive architecture designed to humble visitors. The 7 Supreme Counselors looked down from their elevated positions, their faces unreadable beneath ceremonial masks, representing the founding species of the Galactic Alliance. Diane could feel thousands of eyes upon her, some curious, some hostile, most simply waiting to see how this newcomer species would perform in their first formal address. The silence grew heavy as she waited for permission to speak. You may present Earth's petition, the Central Counselor finally announced. The voice boomed through the chamber, translated simultaneously into 800 different languages. Diane activated the holographic display. The image of Earth appeared tiny and blue against the vastness of space, followed by images of human cities, technology, and culture. Esteemed counselors, representatives of the galactic community. She began, her voice steady, despite her racing heart. Humanity stands before you, not as supplicants, but as potential partners. We understand our position as newcomers to interstellar society. We recognize there are species here who mastered faster than light travel when our ancestors were still perfecting agriculture. This earned a few murmurs of amusement from the assembly. Yet in the brief span of our recorded history, humans have demonstrated an extraordinary capacity for innovation, adaptation, and growth. Diane continued. We have moved from primitive combustion engines to antimatter drive systems in less than 3 centuries. We have transformed from a world of divided nations to a unified planet, capable of establishing colonies on 17 worlds. The holographic display showed these colonies, flourishing landscapes that had once been barren wastelands, now teeming with life. The delegate from the Ursid Confederacy rose, a massive bear-like being with 6 limbs and iridescent fur. Ambassador Foster, these accomplishments, while impressive for such a young species, do not address the primary concern of this council. Your application for full membership comes merely 30 years after your first contact with our civilization. The standard waiting period is at minimum 2 centuries. Diane nodded respectfully. We understand this tradition, Counselor. However, we believe extraordinary circumstances justify extraordinary measures. The Draxian representative interrupted his scales, flashing warning colors. Extraordinary indeed. The humans have violated multiple border treaties, engaged in unauthorized terraforming, and now demand privileges that most species wait generations to receive. Their arrogance is matched only by their ignorance of galactic protocol. The chamber erupted in mixed reactions, some species calling for order, others voicing agreement. With the Draxian Assessment Supreme Counselor Vex raised a hand for silence. Ambassador Foster responded to these accusations. Diane remained composed. We have violated no treaties. The worlds we have terraformed lie within the boundaries established during our first contact negotiations. The Draxian Empire has retrospectively claimed these systems despite clear documentation, proving our prior development rights. She gestured, and the holographic display changed, showing territorial boundaries and timestamps. All data pulled from the Council's own archives. The Draxian representative shifted uncomfortably. As for our request for accelerated membership, Diane continued. We come before you today because of a discovery that affects not just humanity, but potentially all spacefaring civilizations. The chamber grew quiet, curious about this bold claim. 3 standard months ago, our deep space research vessel Horizon detected unusual energy patterns emanating from the region of space known as the Cygnus Void, an area previously thought uninhabitable due to intense radiation. The holographic display showed readings that meant little to most observers, but caused several of the more scientifically advanced species to lean forward with sudden interest. Our scientists determined these energy signatures match theoretical patterns consistent with artificial quantum manipulation at a scale beyond anything currently possible for any known civilization. Diane explained, "We believe we have discovered evidence of technology left behind by the precursors." The chamber erupted. The precursors were the mythical first civilization that had allegedly seeded the galaxy with life before mysteriously vanishing 50 million years ago. Most species regarded them as legends, though tantalizing artifacts occasionally surfaced that defied explanation. Supreme Counselor Vex raised all 4 of his arms for silence. Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. Ambassador, where is your proof of this discovery? Diane nodded to her aide, who transmitted data directly to the Council secure network. We have provided all sensor logs, navigational data, and preliminary analysis. We invite the Council's scientific committee to verify our findings. We stand ready to lead an expedition to the coordinates with representatives from any interested Council members. The Felorian delegate, a being composed of swirling gases contained within a transparent environmental suit, spoke next. How convenient that humans discovered this alleged precursor technology, just as they petitioned for membership. An obvious ploy to bypass established protocols. Diane turned to address the Felorian directly. We anticipated skepticism, Counselor. Which is why we are not asking the Council to accept our analysis without verification. We seek partnership precisely because we recognize that no single species should control access to technology of this magnitude if it exists. We propose a joint expedition, under Council authority. The chamber fell silent as the Supreme Counselors conferred privately through their neural interfaces. After several tense minutes, the Central Counselor spoke. This Council has reviewed your preliminary data. Ambassador Foster, while inconclusive, it is sufficient to warrant further investigation. We will assemble a scientific delegation, including representatives from major Council species. Earth will be permitted to participate, but the expedition will be under Council authority. Diane bowed. This is acceptable to Earth. We seek knowledge, not control. The Draxian representative stood abruptly. This is outrageous. The humans manipulate this Council with convenient discoveries. The timing is suspicious. The data could easily be fabricated. Supreme Counselor Vex turned slowly to face the Draxian. You question the competence of Council scientists to determine the validity of evidence. Delegate Morax. The Draxian faltered his scales, shifting to submissive patterns. I merely suggest caution where humans are concerned. They have proven themselves opportunistic and deceptive. Diane maintained her composure, though anger flashed briefly in her eyes. We welcome the Draxians to participate in the expedition. Their scientific expertise would be valuable in authenticating our discovery. This diplomatic jab was not lost on the assembly. The Draxians were known for their military power, not their scientific achievements. The Central Counselor spoke again. The matter is decided. The expedition will depart in 10 standard days. Ambassador Foster, your petition for accelerated membership is suspended pending the outcome of this investigation. If your discovery proves genuine, the Council will reconsider Earth's status. This session is concluded. As the assembly dispersed, Diane was approached by various delegates, some offering congratulations, others thinly veiled warnings. She noticed the Draxian representative conferring urgently with delegates from several militaristic species. This political gambit had succeeded in gaining humanity a seat at the table, but had also made powerful enemies. Her security chief, Marcus Kelly, a veteran of Earth's space forces, approached quietly. Ambassador, we should return to our quarters. The Draxians are mobilizing their diplomatic allies. Diane nodded. We expected that they won't let us reach the Cygnus void without interference. Do you think the Council suspects we haven't told them everything? Marcus asked, keeping his voice low. Diane glanced around to ensure they weren't overheard. The Council suspects everyone of withholding information. It's how the game is played. We told them about the energy signatures, which is true. What we didn't tell them is that the Horizon also detected artificial structures and received a transmission. Marcus frowned. That transmission could be our best evidence. Why hold it back? Diane smiled grimly, because the message was specifically directed at Earth, not the Galactic Council, not any other species, just us until we understand why. I'm keeping that information secure. As they made their way through the massive council station, they were intercepted by a tall, elegant being with feathered skin and luminous eyes. Ambassador Foster, the being said. With a slight bow, I am tele-liaison to the Kelbian Concord. We would speak with you privately if you would grant us the honor. The Kelbians were an ancient species known for their neutrality in galactic politics. Their technological achievements were legendary, though they rarely shared them. Diane recognized an opportunity. Of course, Liaison Tella, she responded. Our quarters are nearby, if that would be suitable. The Kelbian inclined its head gracefully. That would be most appropriate, once inside. The secure human embassy space environmental scanners confirmed no surveillance devices were active. The Kelbian seemed amused by these precautions. Your species is wise to be cautious. Ambassador Tella said. The council chamber has 2,317 monitoring devices. The Draxians have already filed requests for recordings of your presentation. Diane raised an eyebrow. I expected no less. May I ask why the Kelbian Concord seeks this me? The thunderous sound of the Galactic Council chamber doors, sealing shut, echoed throughout the vast, circular hall. Ambassador Laura Bennett stood at the center platform, her small human frame dwarfed by the immense architecture, designed to intimidate petitioners. 750 alien species watched from their designated sectors, each representative, a power in their own right. The 7 Grand Counselors towered, above all positioned on elevated platforms that symbolized their supreme authority in galactic affairs. Laura could feel beads of sweat forming at her temples despite the environmental controls calibrated to human comfort. She clutched the data crystal that contained Earth's fate, the Grand Arbiter of the Council. A massive being with translucent skin through which complex organs pulsed with bioluminescent light spoke first. The Council recognizes Earth Ambassador Laura Bennett. You may present your petition. Laura stepped forward, activating the central holographic display. A 3-dimensional image of the Milky Way galaxy appeared, highlighting Earth's position in the Orion Arm. The regions claimed by various powers glowed in different colors, Earth's territory barely visible, a tiny speck, compared to the vast empire surrounding it. Honorable counselors, representatives of the galactic community, Laura began, her voice steady despite her racing heart. I come before you today not to beg for mercy, but to demand justice. The Varaxian Imperium has violated the Neutral Zone Treaty by positioning battle fleets at the edge of our territory. They claim this is a routine military exercise. Yet their weapons remain powered, their targeting systems active. The Varaxian representative rose from his seat, his chitinous exoskeleton clicking as he moved. These accusations are baseless. Our fleet movements are within our sovereign rights. The human is attempting to manipulate this council into restricting our legitimate security operations. Grand Counselor Thalara from the Ancient Myriad Collective leaned forward, her 4 eyes focusing on Laura. Earth is not a signatory to the Galactic Defense Accord. Ambassador Bennett, by what authority do you petition this council regarding military matters? Laura tapped her data crystal. The holographic display changed, showing treaty documents. Earth may not be a full member of this council yet, Counselor, but we are signatories to the Neutral Zone Treaty, established 8 galactic standard years ago. The treaty explicitly prohibits military buildup within 20 light years of any boundary between signatories. Grand Arbiter Vorn's bioluminescent organs flashed in patterns indicating deep thought. The Varaxian Imperium is indeed bound by this treaty. The question before us is whether their fleet deployment constitutes a violation. Counselor Drex of the Strategic Oversight Committee, what say you? A being composed entirely of crystalline structures, rotated slowly on its axis, analyzing the data. Earth has presented the deployment pattern is consistent with invasion, preparations not exercises. As claimed, the Varaxian vessels are arranged in standard assault formation. The Varaxian representative hissed. Our internal military protocols are not subject to council oversight. Laura seized the moment. Perhaps the Varaxians would prefer to explain why they have deployed planet cracker weapons, prohibited under the Galactic Weapons Limitation Treaty. These weapons are designed for only one purpose, the complete destruction of inhabited worlds. A shocked murmur swept through the chamber. Even species, normally allied with the Varaxians, seemed disturbed. The Varaxian representative's mandibles clicked rapidly, and what humans had learned was a sign of agitation. You have no evidence of such weapons, the Varaxian declared. Laura smiled coldly and activated the final section of her presentation. Actually, we do. The holographic display showed detailed scans of the Varaxian fleet highlighting specific energy signatures. The data was accompanied by authentication, codes proving it had been gathered by automated beacons placed legally within neutral space. Grand Counselor Thalara leaned forward. What the humans present appears to be authentic. These weapons were banned after the Carillion genocide. 300 billion sentience lost in a single rotation. We cannot permit their deployment under any circumstances. The Varaxian representative rose to his full height, nearly 12 feet of armored chitin and sharp appendages. Ambassador Bennett plays a dangerous game. The weapons your sensors detected are not planet crackers but standard defense arrays. Any resemblance in energy signature is coincidental. Our engineers will provide full documentation. Laura shook her head. We anticipated this response. She nodded to her aide, who transmitted additional data to the Council Secure Network. These are the original Varaxian technical specifications for the TX-7 planetary defense system. And these, she highlighted another section, are the specifications for the prohibited XR-9 planet cracker weapon. As you can see, the energy signatures are distinct. The weapons on those ships match the XR-9, not the TX-7. The Varaxian representative's exoskeleton turned a deep red, a sign of extreme anger. This is fabricated evidence. The humans have manipulated the data. Grand Arbiter Vorn raised a massive hand for silence. Ambassador Bennett, where did you obtain these specifications? The XR-9 documentation was sealed by Council directive after the ban. Laura took a deep breath. This was the moment of greatest risk. Earth did not know if the Council would approve of their methods. We obtained them from the Varaxian military database. Their security was compromised by autonomous infiltration probes. The chamber erupted in chaos. Some species shouted accusations of espionage. Others demanded to know how humans had developed technology capable of breaching Varaxian security. The Varaxian representative slammed a clawed appendage on his console. This is an act of war. The humans admit to cyber warfare against a sovereign power. We demand sanctions. Grand Counselor Thalara raised all four of her hands for silence. A strange situation confronts us. Humans have violated information sovereignty protocols, yet in doing so, they have exposed a far more serious violation of armament treaties. The question becomes, which transgression poses the greater threat to galactic stability? Laura stood firm. We recognize our methods were unorthodox, but consider our position. Earth is a single planet with 17 colonies facing an empire that controls 800 worlds. We have a population of 11 billion. They have trillions. We cannot match them militarily. We cannot defeat them in conventional warfare. Our only defense is information. The Grand Arbiter conferred with the other counselors through their neural link. After several tense minutes, he spoke. The Council finds this situation unprecedented. The evidence regarding prohibited weapons cannot be ignored regardless of how it was obtained. The Varaxian fleet will submit to inspection by neutral observers. If planet crackers are found, sanctions will be imposed. If not, Earth will face censure for false accusations and information theft. Laura bowed, accepting the decision. This is fair. We ask only that the inspection team include human representatives. The Varaxian representative hissed. That is unacceptable. They will plant evidence. Grand Counselor Drex rotated in place. The inspection team will include representatives from all council sectors, including Earth and the Varaxian Imperium. All members will be monitored at all times. This should prevent Tampering the Grand Arbiter brought the massive, crystalline gavel down. This matter is decided. The council is adjourned until the inspection is complete. As the delegates filed out, Laura was approached by the representative from the Solarian Concordat, a species of energy beings contained within humanoid mechanical bodies. Ambassador Bennett, a word if you please, Laura, followed the Solarian to a private alcove where surveillance was blocked by the Solarian's natural electromagnetic field that was either very brave or very foolish. The Solarian said, its voice modulator creating perfect English. The Varaxians will not forget this humiliation. Laura shrugged. They were preparing to attack Earth. We had no choice. The Solarian tilted its head. You could have approached the council, privately presented your evidence through diplomatic channels. Laura smiled grimly. Tried that 3 times. The evidence was deemed insufficient. The Varaxians have too many allies. In the lower bureaucracy, too many species who profit from their trade routes, your people included. The Solarian nodded, its mechanical body humming softly. True enough. The Concordat values its trading relationship with the Varaxians. However, we value galactic stability more. Planet crackers. The Varaxians grow more aggressive each cycle. They fear Earth's growth, Laura said. Our expansion rate troubles them. They see what humanity might become in a few centuries. Your species does develop at an alarming pace, the Solarian admitted. Most species take thousands of years to achieve what humanity has done in mere centuries. The Varaxians are a conservative power. They prefer slow, predictable change. Laura leaned closer. What happens now? The Solarian's photoreceptors dimmed slightly. Now, Ambassador Bennett, you have made powerful enemies. The inspection will proceed. The weapons will be found. The Varaxians will face sanctions, but they will rebuild and they will remember you. Think they'll attack anyway? The Solarian made a gesture equivalent to a shrug. Not immediately. The sanctions will restrict their movements for several cycles, but eventually, yes, they will come. For Earth, unless what? Unless you find allies. The Concordat admires innovation efficiency. The Varaxians' recent trade policies have been increasingly restrictive. Perhaps Earth could offer alternative arrangements. Laura realized what was happening. The Solarian Concordat was offering an alliance veiled in economic terms, the politics of the Kunchi. The massive doors of the Grand Chamber groaned open, revealing a circular hall large enough to house a small starship. Thousands of representatives from across the galaxy perched in tiered seating, their bodies ranging from vaguely humanoid to utterly alien, some floating in specialized atmosphere bubbles. Others merged with mechanical support systems. Ambassador Eliza Morgan took a deep breath, steadying herself as she walked onto the central platform. Her footsteps echoed in the sudden silence. The 7 Supreme Counselors looked down from their elevated positions. Each represented one of the founding races that had established the Galactic Council 50,000 years before humanity had even mastered agriculture. Their faces remained impassive, but Eliza felt the weight of their collective attention. State your petition. Earthling, the Center Counselor, spoke, the universal translator, converting complex harmonic tones into English. Eliza activated her holographic projector. A 3-dimensional image of Earth appeared, rotating slowly, surrounded by smaller images of human colonies and space stations. Distinguished counselors, representatives of the unified galaxy, Eliza began. I come before you on a matter of unprecedented urgency. For the first time in 8,000 years, a quarantine zone has been breached. Murmurs rippled through the assembly. The quarantine zones were regions of space sealed off by the ancient council races, containing threats deemed too dangerous to eliminate, but too hazardous to allow free movement. The Supreme Arbiter leaned forward slightly. Which zone has been compromised? The holographic display changed, showing a distant sector near the galactic rim. Restricted Zone 17, Ambassador Morgan replied. Zone. Designation, Helios Perditio. Sealed after the Midnight War. 23,000 years ago, the murmurs grew louder. Many species were too young to have direct knowledge of the Midnight War, but all were taught about the conflict that had nearly destroyed galactic civilization. The Supreme Counselor for Security, a massive being with crystalline skin that refracted light in hypnotic patterns, spoke next. How was this breach discovered? Earth lies far from the quarantine. Boundary, Eliza nodded, are deep. Space monitoring station detected unusual energy signatures consistent with quarantine barrier degradation. We dispatched a research vessel to investigate. Their findings confirmed our fears. The barrier has weakened significantly in 17 locations. Preposterous. Interrupted the Xanthi representative of being composed of swirling gases contained in a transparent environment suit. The barriers are maintained by technologies far beyond human understanding. You could not possibly interpret the data correctly, Eliza. Remained calm. That is precisely why we brought this matter directly to the Council. After detecting the anomalies, we contacted the Myriad Worlds, who helped establish the original quarantine. They confirmed our analysis. The chamber fell silent. The Myriad were one of the oldest species in the galaxy. Their technological prowess was legendary, their wisdom rarely questioned. And what does Earth propose? Asked the Grand Arbiter. Eliza took a deep breath. The barrier must be reinforced immediately. We request access to the original containment protocols. We volunteer our newest ship, the Prometheus, as a platform for the repair mission. Impossible, the Xanthi representative objected. The containment protocols are among the most closely guarded secrets in the galaxy. They cannot be entrusted to a species that achieved space travel barely 2 centuries ago. The Supreme Counselor for Knowledge. A being so ancient that its original biological form had been replaced entirely by technology considered. Eliza, for a long moment. Tell us, Ambassador Morgan, why should Earth be involved at all? The Myriad have the technology. The Sentinel Collective has the military might. Why not leave this matter to species with experience? Eliza smiled thinly. Honorable, Counselor Proximity and Perspective. Earth is the closest developed world to Restricted Zone 17. If the quarantine fails completely, we will be the first civilization affected. The defense of our world is our right. Furthermore, humanity offers something. The ancient races lack fresh eyes on old problems. The quarantine was designed using principles established millennia ago. Our scientists approached the problem without preconceptions. The Supreme Counselor for Security flashed patterns of light across its crystalline surface, a peculiar argument, an admission of ignorance presented as an advantage. Not ignorance, Eliza corrected, innovation. The quarantine has weakened despite the efforts of its original architects. Perhaps new methods are required. The Grand Arbiter raised a hand for silence. We will consult. The 7 Supreme Counselors linked minds, their consciousness merging temporarily to share thoughts and reach consensus. The chamber remained absolutely quiet during this process, a tradition dating back to the Council's founding. After several minutes, the connection broke. The Grand Arbiter spoke. Your petition is granted with conditions. The Prometheus will transport a Council delegation including representatives from the Myriad and the Sentinel Collective. The delegation will assess the quarantine breach and implement repairs. Earth may observe and assist, but final authority rests with the Council. Representatives. Eliza bowed in acceptance. Understood. Earth's gratitude to the Council is boundless. As the session concluded, Eliza was approached by the Myriad representative, a being of pure energy, contained within an ornate mechanical body. Ambassador Morgan, a word in private, if you please. They moved to a secure consultation chamber, designed to block all forms of surveillance. The Myriad representative dimmed its energy form to a comfortable level. You did not tell the full truth in there, the Myriad observed. Its voice came from everywhere and nowhere at once. Eliza raised an eyebrow. What makes you think that? The Myriad's energy form pulsed in what might have been amusement. My species helped establish the quarantine ambassador. We maintain constant monitoring of all barriers. Your deep space station could not have detected the degradation before our systems. Eliza remained silent, waiting. The Myriad continued. The question therefore becomes, how did you really discover the breach, and why bring it to the Council's attention when you could have simply alerted us directly? Human ambassador considered her response carefully. The Myriad were ancient beyond human comprehension, but they were known for their honesty and their concern for younger species. 2 months ago, a small scout ship disappeared while charting the border of neutral space near the quarantine zone, she admitted. When we sent a search vessel, they found debris evidence of weapons fire not consistent with any known species. They also detected unusual energy readings coming from beyond the quarantine barrier. The Myriad's energy form darkened. "You believe something escaped?" Eliza nodded. "We found biological residue on the debris. We've been unable to identify it, but the molecular structure suggests extreme adaptability, regenerative capabilities." The Myriad was silent for a long moment. "Then what escaped was likely a Helios entity. One of the reasons the zone was quarantined. The Midnight War began when the entities were first encountered. They cannot be reasoned with, cannot be appeased. They exist only to consume and expand." "Tell me about them," Eliza urged. "We have only fragments of information in our historical archives." The Myriad's form fluctuated. What you call Helios entities, we called the devouring light biological organisms that evolved to consume energy directly from stars. They spread by releasing spores that can drift through space for millennia. Once they infect a star system, they multiply rapidly, drawing energy until the star destabilizes. They cannot be killed by conventional means. Their molecular structure adapts to any form of attack. "And how were they defeated?" Eliza asked. "They were not defeated," the Myriad corrected. "They were contained. The combined fleets of 17 advanced civilizations managed to drive them back to their origin point. We established the quarantine barrier using technologies that have since been lost to time. Even we retain only partial understanding of the principles involved." Eliza frowned. "Then how do we repair it?" The Myriad's energy brightened. "We cannot fully repair it, but we can strengthen it temporarily. Buy time to develop a more permanent solution. The Prometheus has capabilities beyond what you revealed to the Council, does it not?" Eliza hesitated, unsure how much to reveal. The Myriad continued. "Rumors have reached us that Earth has been experimenting with dimensional phase technology. A dangerous field of research, but one that might prove useful in reinforcing the barrier." "How did you know about that?" Eliza asked sharply. "The phase drive was Earth's most closely guarded technological secret. A propulsion system that allowed ships to partially shift between dimensions, reducing the energy needed for faster-than-light travel." The Myriad's form rippled in what might have been the equivalent of laughter. "We have existed for millions of your years. Ambassador, few secrets escape our notice. But rest assured, we have not shared this knowledge. Your technological innovation is precisely why we supported your petition. Earth brings new approaches to old problems." Eliza studied the ancient being. There was more happening here than a simple repair mission. "Why didn't you tell the Council about the escaped entity?" "Some knowledge would only create panic," the Myriad replied. "The Supreme Counselor for Security would demand immediate military action, potentially triggering a conflict with whatever escaped. The containment must be repaired first. Then we can address the escaped entity, and if we encounter it during the repair mission, then Ambassador Morgan, your species will demonstrate whether humanity is truly ready for the responsibilities of galactic citizenship. 3-day. The grand chamber of the Galactic Council stretched upward for hundreds of feet, its vaulted ceiling decorated with astronomical charts of thousands of worlds. Ambassador Megan Taylor stood alone on the central platform facing the ruling circle. 7 beings of immense power and influence, each representing one of the founding species of the Interstellar Alliance. Tier upon tier of alien representatives surrounded her, some humanoid, most utterly foreign to human experience, many requiring specialized environmental chambers to survive the standard atmosphere. Megan's heart hammered against her ribs, though she maintained an outward appearance of calm. Everything depended on the next few minutes. The chief arbiter, a massive being composed of crystalline structures that refracted light in mesmerizing patterns, raised an appendage for silence. The Council recognizes Earth Ambassador Megan Taylor. The arbiter spoke the universal translator, converting multitonal vibrations into English. You may present your petition. Megan activated the holographic display embedded in the platform. A 3-dimensional image of the Milky Way galaxy appeared, highlighting Earth's position in the Orion Arm-honored counselors representatives of the United Galaxy. Megan began. Earth comes before you today, not as supplicants but as equals. We seek neither charity nor special consideration. We come to propose a solution to the crisis that threatens us all. Murmurs rippled through the assembly. The current galactic crisis was unprecedented. The Ravager swarm had emerged from uncharted space beyond the galactic rim 6 standard months ago. Their origin remained unknown, their motives incomprehensible. They consumed all in their path, converting organic and inorganic material alike into more of their kind. 17 systems had already fallen, entire civilizations erased from existence. The Taurian representative rose, an imposing figure with 4 arms and scaled skin that shifted colors with his emotions. The human presumes much, he declared, his translator barely containing his disdain. Earth is hardly an equal. A primitive world that achieved faster than light travel mere decades ago. They have no standing to address a crisis of this magnitude. The IT chief arbiter turned his crystalline face toward the Taurian. The crisis affects all worlds. Counselor, Earth lies directly in the projected path of the swarm. They have earned the right to be heard. Megan nodded gratefully. Continuing, the combined fleets of the Council have engaged the swarm 3 times. Each battle has ended in retreat and significant losses. The swarm adapts to our weapons, our tactics with frightening speed. She manipulated the holographic display showing footage from the most recent battle, massive Council warships firing energy weapons that the swarm initially absorbed before adjusting their molecular structure to become immune. The Taurian interrupted again. We are aware of our own military engagements. Human, your species wasn't even present at these conflicts. What insight could you possibly offer? Megan remained calm. You are correct, Counselor. Earth has not participated directly in the battles. Our fleet is small compared to the ancient powers. Yet sometimes, those who observe from a distance see patterns that escape those in the midst of conflict. She adjusted the display again, focusing on specific portions of the battle footage. Our analysts have studied every engagement with the swarm. The data reveals something crucial. The swarm units function as a single entity, sharing information instantaneously across vast distances. This is how they adapt so quickly to our attacks. The Vex representative, a being of pure energy contained in an ornate mechanical body, leaned forward. This is not new information. Ambassador. Our scientists reached this conclusion weeks ago. Megan smiled. What may be new is our proposed solution. We believe the swarm relies on quantum entanglement to maintain this instantaneous communication. If we can disrupt this entanglement, we can isolate individual swarm units, breaking their collective intelligence. The chamber grew quiet as the implications became clear. The chief arbiter spoke. How would Earth propose to disrupt quantum entanglement across such vast distances? No known technology can accomplish this. This is where we offer something unique, Megan replied. 3 years ago, Earth scientists developed what we call the Harmony Protocol, a method of generating controlled quantum field disruptions. Initially designed as a defensive measure against certain energy weapons, it has proven effective in laboratory settings against systems similar to those used by the swarm. She transmitted detailed technical specifications to the Council secure network. The Vex representative examined the data incredulously. This technology, if functional, would require enormous power resources well beyond Earth's capabilities. Megan nodded. Which is why we propose a joint operation. Earth will provide the Harmony Protocol technology. The Council provides the power generation capabilities and delivery systems. We work together to deploy the disruption field at the edge of the Hesperus sector before the swarm reaches the population centers there. Skeptical murmurs filled the chamber. The Taurian representative rose again, his scales flashing warning colors. Why should we trust Earth with such a critical operation? Your species has a history of aggression, deception. Your planetary wars nearly destroyed your civilization before you achieved space travel. How do we know this isn't an attempt to acquire advanced Council technology? Megan had anticipated this objection. Earth will share the Harmony Protocol completely with the Council. Technical teams from all major powers can examine and verify it. We will integrate it with Council systems under joint supervision. Earth asks nothing in return. Accept the chance to help stop the swarm before it reaches our world, the chief. Arbiter conferred silently with the other council members through their shared neural link. After several tense minutes, he spoke. Your proposal has merit, Ambassador Taylor, but implementing it presents significant challenges. The nearest council, fleet capable of generating sufficient power, is 3 sectors away. The swarm will reach Hesperus before they arrive. Megan had prepared for this as well. Earth has a solution for that too. She said the Harmony Protocol can be modified to work with multiple smaller power sources functioning in concert. What we lack in individual capacity, we can compensate for through synchronized deployment. 37 council worlds lie within range of the swarm path. Each could provide vessels to form a disruption network. A new holographic image appeared, showing a web of interconnected ships surrounding the projected swarm path. Each vessel would generate a portion of the disruption field linked together. They could create an effect powerful enough to sever the swarm's quantum connections. The council members studied the proposal. The Vex representative spoke through synchronized smaller fields. This approach is unorthodox, but the physics appear sound. The power requirements would indeed be manageable for a distributed network. The Taurian representative remained skeptical. This plan places too much responsibility on untested technology from a junior species. What if it fails? The swarm would adapt, becoming immune to any future attempt. Megan met his gaze directly. Then we will have lost nothing. The conventional approach is already failing. Counselor. The swarm adapts to each weapon we deploy. This at least offers a new strategy, one the swarm has not encountered. The chief arbiter raised a crystalline appendage. Who would coordinate this distributed network? The timing must be precise, the power modulation exactly, synchronized across dozens of vessels. Megan took a deep breath. Earth volunteers to lead the coordination. Our vessel, the Celestial Harmony, has been equipped with the primary disruption matrix. We will position ourselves at the center of the formation, the most vulnerable position but necessary for optimal field generation. This declaration caused another wave of murmurs, some of admiration, others of continued doubt. The council deliberated again through their neural link. Finally, the chief arbiter announced, the council accepts Earth's proposal with conditions. Council technicians will verify the Harmony Protocol. Earth will lead the coordination effort. But final command authority rests with Admiral Vex of the Galactic Defense Fleet. Deployment will commence immediately. May wisdom guide us all. As the session concluded, representatives from various worlds approached, Megan offering support, technical assistance, or simply expressions of cautious hope. The Taurian representative, however, blocked her path as she attempted to leave the chamber. A bold move, Ambassador, he said, his scales now a neutral blue indicating professional detachment. If this succeeds, Earth will gain significant standing in the Council. If it fails, Megan replied evenly. Then the swarm continues its advance and we all lose together. Counselor Earth included. This isn't about politics or status, it's about survival. The Taurian studied her for a long moment. Perhaps humans have evolved more than we credited. Your species once seemed incapable of seeing beyond your immediate self. Interest. Megan smiled thinly. Existential threats have a way of clarifying priorities. When you face extinction, petty advantages lose their appeal. The Taurian made a gesture of acknowledgement. We will provide 3 vessels to your network, Ambassador. Their captains are among our finest, engineers are standing by to integrate your technology. Thank you, Counselor, Megan said, genuinely surprised by the offer. The Taurian leaned closer, speaking softly so only she could hear. Know this, human. If your plan succeeds, the balance of power in the Council will shift. Those who have dominated for millennia may find their influence diminished. Not all will welcome this change. Proceed with caution, even in victory. With that cryptic warning, he departed Lou.